Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. A New York Times article asks the question, "Men, where have you gone?" Now, this article by Rachel Drucker is one where she's asking the question, what happened to all the men in the dating marketplace, and asks that question because she doesn't see many men out here dating anymore. And when I read this article, it basically took me back to an old Sandman video I watched many years ago, where we had women asking the question, where have all the good men gone? And the whole article basically is just a rephrasing of those words, where have all the good men gone? And this middle-aged woman in this article is wondering what happened to all the men in the dating marketplace. And as a man in that age range who grew up in the 1980s, I can tell you what happened to all of the men inside of the social marketplace. And what happened to most of the men in the social marketplace is that they've basically walked away, and they've walked away because there's nothing for them to even consider getting a benefit from having a relationship with America's modern feminist. And since there's nothing there for them to have a relationship with, they're basically leaving these women alone, and they've also been incentivized to leave these women alone based on all of the drama that went along with the Me Too movement. Now, back in the late 20-teens, we had an entire Me Too movement created when many of these white supremacists wanted to go after black celebrities like Bill Cosby and tried to demonize and tarnish their reputations. And as they looked to tarnish the reputations of black men like Bill Cosby, the entire scheme basically blew up in their faces when, in their campaign to go after Bill Cosby, what happened was they wound up with Roger Ailes, who was trying to just pay off Gretchen Carlson a settlement of $20 million, and that's when the female nature of the feminists turned into hypergamy. And as it turned into triggered their hypergamy, they started going after white men. And after they started going after white men with these allegations of alleged sexual indiscretions, what happened was those allegations basically again destroyed the careers of white men, and even worse, created a legal precedent with the conviction of Bill Cosby that basically made it where the law basically stated that the sheer word of a woman and of an allegation could lead to a man winding up losing everything as related to his freedom, his professional and personal reputation. And that basically made it where many men realized that they had too much to lose if they ever thought to pursue any relationship with a woman, especially with them going out here and creating a cancel culture where they could go out here and just simply make an allegation against a man, and that man could not get any sort of due process under the law as related to combating those allegations. That was what was shown to many men when they saw Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh almost lose his nomination as related to the Supreme Court based on the allegation of Christine Blasey Ford as related to an allegation of a crime. And again, many men these days basically saw that they had too much to lose and had too much to lose because when it comes down to a man is the only person who can go out here and make a living for himself. And in a world where a man has to be the only one taking care of himself, he basically has to make a sacrifice for his survival. And because a man has to be the only one to take care of himself, he basically sacrificed relationships with feminists in order to ensure his survival as a man. And that's what happened to most of the Western men in America and Western countries. They basically walked away from relationships with women because they have simply too much to lose. And because they have too much to lose, they have no reason to get involved with the modern feminist, because the modern feminist has basically created an economic system that is completely incompatible with their need for survival, and that's why many men don't want anything to do with many of the females out here who are now sitting there wondering, again, like in this New York Times article, where have you gone? Again, another repackaging of the question, where are all the good men? Where have all the good men gone? Well, you basically drove these men away because you bought into ideas from the white feminists. And as you bought into ideas from the white feminists, you basically were indoctrinated into feminism. And as you were indoctrinated into feminism, you didn't understand what feminism really was all about, because you thought feminism was about, again, a woman being able to get equal to a man, when in actuality God created everything equal when he created the earth. Now, I go in depth on this in my book, The Woman Crisis, and in my book, The Woman Crisis, I talk about how we have this crisis as related to modern women, because many modern, what they call modern women, are actually feminists, and a feminist is completely different than a woman, because a feminist basically is somebody who was socially engineered to be a part of corporate America and its entire business complex, whereas a woman was created by God to be a helpmeet to a man. And as she was created to be a helpmeet to a man, she was created to serve the man and want to have a relationship with a man. But a feminist doesn't want that at all. No, a feminist is a female who, again, has been socially engineered to believe that she can not only be in a place of a man, but can be, again, in a place where she is the head and the leader, and wants to, again, subjugate and dominate the man. So most men who are created by God to be heads and stewards and be the leaders who serve God, what happens with those men is that those men basically are incompatible with the feminist, and they're incompatible with the feminist because she wants the power of that man. Moreover, she wants to supplant that man in God's order and be the one dominated to him. But the only institution where she has been given power by a group of wealthy men is corporate America. And what this causes is a conflict between the man and the feminist, where they cannot, again, be compatible with each other because they're fighting in a power struggle. And as they fight in that power struggle, this feminist can go to the institutions of the courts. She can go to the institutions of corporate America, where she gets her daily bread, and use them to go after the man and oppress the man. So the man having feeling like he basically can lose everything based on the legal interpretation of law established by the Bill Cosby conviction of 2018, what can happen to those men is that those men can wind up losing their professional reputation, their personal reputation, and even their freedom, simply based on the allegation of a woman inside of the courts that are basically gynocentric. And what happens to those men is that since they believe that they can possibly lose everything as related to their life in this country and their liberty and pursuit of happiness, is that they look to pursue things on their own and look to stay to themselves, and look to stay to themselves because they cannot work with the feminist the way they could with a woman. Now, when it comes down to men, men want relationships with women, but you can't have a relationship with a feminist because she is not looking to serve the man inside of God's order. No, the feminist is looking to serve the institutions of the wealthy in corporate America, and she's more submitted to the bosses at her job that she cannot serve the man. And that's why men aren't interested in looking to pursue any relationship, because they understand they are not compatible with a feminist outside of her being female and her having female genitalia. Outside of that, there is nothing for them to relate to, because everything with the modern woman is either about her job or about her getting attention on social media. There's nothing there where she's looking to relate to this man in any way, shape, or form because she's got her own money, she's got her own job, she's got her own house. She doesn't want to work with a man towards building anything. And again, that runs against what a man is, because a man is looking to do something. He's looking to do the work of God. He's looking to serve God. He's looking to follow the lead of God. And he's looking to go down the direction of looking to be a part of God's order. But this woman wants to be a part of corporate America, and she's in these corporate jobs. Again, majority of women are in these corporate jobs, and as they are in these corporate jobs, again, they're thinking about climbing this corporate ladder, and they're finding themselves, again, extremely unfulfilled and miserable, because what's making them unfulfilled and miserable is that they are not in their natural role that is in God's order, but they're not in that role because they've been indoctrinated to be these feminists, and as they've been indoctrinated to be feminists, they think being in the role of a woman is sexist, not understanding the irony is that they have become miserable in their own company, because they're the ones, again, working these jobs and working at these jobs. And the other great irony is that they're keeping men out of the job, because as they've gone out here and erected this brick wall in front of human resources, they can't see that it is a wall keeping the men out, keeping men out of their lives, keeping them from being able to have a relationship with a man, keeping them from being able to be close to a man, because in order for her to be with a man in God's order, that's going to require a sacrifice, and again, require a sacrifice of that whole world that was created by wealthy men, where they keep the women at the job. Again, the only reason why the women are at the job is because the wealthy want to go out here and have cheap labor that they can basically pay less than a man, and they don't have to deal with things like unions going out here and disrupting their ability to reap profits. But what's sadly happening is society isn't profiting, and that you've got this whole groups of generations of dissatisfied women who are not emotionally and spiritually fulfilled by God, because God made a natural purpose for a woman. He made a natural purpose for a woman to be the helpmeet to a man, and naturally she wants to serve a man. She naturally wants to have a relationship with a man, and she can't have that relationship with a man because she's basically made a compromise with mammon, and as she's made friends with mammon in the system of the wealthy as related to their economic system, she is not benefiting emotionally or spiritually, and even worse, has driven away the man. And the man has no interest in, again, participating in relationships with women anymore, because when it comes down to most modern women, they basically are looking to serve the institutions of corporate America and receive mammon. They don't want to serve God. They don't want to be in a relationship with a man. And men wanted to be there, but they can't be there because of the Me Too movement basically destroying the world of dating and relationships. I mean, it was already in a fragile state due to the feminist movement of the 1960s and 1970s, creating a system of no-fault divorces that basically destroyed God's institution of marriage. And that got progressively worse when the Me Too movement came along. And with the Me Too movement, it basically made it where men saw that there was nothing there at the table for them whatsoever. Many men basically saw, hey, if I even look at this woman, I could possibly be arrested and go to jail and possibly lose everything. And with the man being someone who has to take care of himself, because this is the way the world was created due to the sin of Adam and Eve, a man has to do labor, and he has to do hard labor. And again, he has too much to lose. And I know I keep repeating that, but I want you to understand, a man has too much to lose because he is the only one who can take care of himself. And if he has to choose between women and survival, he's going to choose survival first. And that's what's happening right now. Men are choosing survival. They're choosing survival and would rather just stay online or stay focused on their interests, like their hobbies, because they can benefit from those hobbies, and they're finding social interactions with men And they basically, again, look to, again, avoid women because, again, there's nothing there. She's already taken care of by the state. She's already taken care of by corporate America economically, but sadly, she's finding herself empty emotionally and empty spiritually, and finding herself empty emotionally and spiritually because basically most of the West's women, again, have been programmed by this white feminism to believe that men are bad and that they have basically, again, ironically, again, smashed the patriarchy. They want nothing to do with the patriarchy, but then they sit there and lament not having a relationship with a man. But God made men and women to be together, but the thing that has to happen is both men and women have to overcome this programming created by the corporate America, because corporate America, all they're thinking about is profits, and they put profits over people and the needs of people. And in order for people to come together, they're going to have to start rejecting corporate America as related to things. But many women are afraid to do that. That's why they're sitting in an apartment with a cat. Yeah, they may be making six figures, but the whole thing is they can't have that man, because being with that man means they have to sacrifice that job, sacrifice making that money, because in order to be a part of a man, you have to submit to his leadership, submit to his authority, and that's the way God has established things. He means for the woman to serve the man and help meet his needs. But the whole thing is the woman wants to, again, have that economic security of that job, have that economic security and that place to stay as related to things under the system of corporate America. But something has to give, because the whole thing is your society cannot run without men, and without men, your whole society falls completely apart. And that's what's happening right now, and that's why America is in decline, because we didn't invest in our men. A lot of people are wondering what happens when you go out here and you invest in women. That's what you got right now. Women who are sitting there miserable with a cat, sitting up there wondering what happened to all of the men. Where did they go in the dating space? Well, those men can't really enter the dating space because they are not in a place where they have resources, because corporate America gave the woman all the resources, and most women, again, because of hypergamy, are looking to get with the highest status men instead of the men in society. Now, had America invested in its men, there would be plenty of men out there working on jobs. Those men would be out here making money, and those men would be attractive to women and, again, be looking to pursue women. But we didn't want to invest in our men because people got greedy at the top, and they wanted to use women as cheap labor to go out here and be a buffer group, have them be a buffer group to lower wages and keep the country from, again, being competitive, because what makes the country competitive is men. And again, when you don't invest in your men, you don't have any men out there to enter into the dating marketplace, because what drives men to enter into the dating marketplace, again, is that they've got a job, they're out here making good money, they're out here doing all right. And again, that's what makes women attracted to men, is seeing, oh, there's guys out here, there are guys out here doing things. But a lot of guys basically get cut off at the beginning as related to the whole dating marketplace, because they can't enter the workspace. And since they can't enter the workspace due to the feminist constructed human resource, or as I call it, HR brick wall, this brick wall keeps the men out, because these women caught up in their hypergamy look down at men with contempt who are looking to get their first entry-level jobs, looks down at those men and doesn't see them as somebody important, looks down at those men and doesn't see them as anybody who has value, because these women have theirs, and since they're a part of corporate America, they gatekeep the men out of the job market. And that's why we've got 6 to 7 million men outside of the job market and working on their own hustles, and again, making enough money basically to barely live. Most of those men basically, again, struggling right now. But had they been allowed into the job market and have been allowed to make that living, then you would have plenty of men in the social marketplace, because they would have the capital to invest, and they would be seen as high status men by the other women. And again, you'd have guys to go out here and date, but women messed up their own thing. by believing the wealthy as related to their ideas of feminism, not seeing that the trap was laid where they went out here and made money, and you wound up in misery working for a company, wound up in misery working for this company, again, working for this company, basically, again, wedded to this business, wedded to this job, wedded to all the work that you're doing, and again, sitting up here, again, trying to go out on dates, and then guys are blowing them off, like this woman said in the article, again, blowing them off because a guy doesn't want to go on a job interview when he's going out with a woman. No, he don't want to go to no job interview, listening to some woman talk about degrees, talk about her job, a job that man should have had. Again, when he listens to that woman, he sees a competitor, not someone who is a companion, and he sees somebody who basically has everything taken care of as related to her, and is not, because he's not looking to be taken care of, he doesn't want to be emasculated by that woman. So these women basically are in the place that men are supposed to be, and a lot of them are unsatisfied because they cannot be a part of God's order, and because they're not a part of God's order, that's why they're sitting there miserable in these corporate jobs, again, wondering what happened to the men. Why have they retreated from intimacy? Well, the problem is that both the man and the woman have been taken outside the order of God, and as they've been taken outside the order of God, they're not following God. No, they're serving Mammon, and again, Mammon has taken them both straight to hell as related to the social marketplace, and instead of men and women coming together, they're becoming more apart, and sadly, that's what's happening here. And again, this article is just the latest out of numerous articles and things I've seen online. I mean, a lot of people looking at this article in the New York Times as being something major, but it's really minor to me, because way back as far as 2017, when I was writing The Man Crisis back then, I already saw lots of guys in the men's circles already having to hear women ask, "Where have all the good men gone?" Well, the men have gone away because there's nothing for them at the table. And since women don't want to bring values and character to the table as related to the order of God, they basically are looking to be feminist and trying to shoehorn that order into things. And that's why they're sitting there wondering, where have all the good men gone? Well, if you were a woman and not a feminist, you would be able to find a good man. But because you want to hold on and adhere to the values of the feminist, basically, you don't want to be a woman. And again, that's the thing that messes up most modern women, is that they don't understand that there's a difference between a feminist and a woman. And again, if you want to have a man, you've got to go out here and stop being a feminist and start being a woman. Now, if you want to learn the difference between a feminist and a woman and break out of the mindset of the feminist and become a woman, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me take more articles like this New York Times article to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteemed series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback, From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.